Hello everyone. I am Japneet, your host for this session. Today, we have got something truly essential lined up for you, focusing on the cornerstone of the software development, elevating app test coverage. So that is the topic for the today's session. Today, it's not just about making sure that an application works, but also ensuring that it performs well under pressure, is it's accessible to everyone and is secure from vulnerabilities. This session will deep dive into how comprehensive test coverage, both functional and non-functional, plays a critical role in achieving these goals. So our speaker today, Vijay, is an engineering manager at Swiggy with over 13 years of experience in the software industry. Vijay has been at the forefront of developing innovative tools that enhance user experience and tackle complex business challenges. Whether it's improving the ride hailing service at Ola or streamlining the process at SAP Labs, Vijay's work has always focused on delivering high quality solutions. So today he'll be sharing cutting edge strategies and methods to help you elevate the app testing coverage. He will also explore how focusing on various non-functional aspects like accessibility, security, and performance, which generally people don't think about, can dramatically reduce the risk of defects and boost user satisfaction. Plus, he'll give us insights into the real world challenges he faced and how they have been overcome. As always, don't hesitate to show your support during the session with the help of emojis and the reactions, and will make the session more interactive. You can put down your questions in Q&A section, and we'll be discussing the question as and when during the session. So let's dive in. Please join me in welcoming Vijay to the stage.
Hey,
Hi, Vijay. Over to you.
Japneet, hi everyone. Thanks a lot, Japneet. I think this is a pretty good introduction. Yeah, cool. Uh, hey everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon for different time zone, guys. So this is Vijay. As Japneet mentioned, I'm from Swiggy. I'm part of Swiggy in last 6 years, and I took care of responsibilities of consumer experience plus a quality of the product. By any chance, if you guys order in last 3 to 5 years in Swiggy, so we are the one who is actually signing off the app into App Store and Play Store. So even if you are enjoying the user experience, or if you have some problems or issues with the user experience, myself and my team is the whole responsibilities. Yeah, let's jump into the actual session. Please feel free to interrupt or post your questions here so Javneet can collate and then we can answer it when and there uh, on the session itself. So before we start the app test coverage, right? Like why? What is the role of the test coverage, right? Like when we are actually trying to increase our test coverage, so the other problems will automatically comes into the system, which is the automation, time, duration, execution will get increased. Or maintaining the stability will be again like a very difficult job to do it. So these are all the two additional problems will come along with the whenever you are increasing the app test coverage. But the benefit which you are getting is the quality, so you cannot play around the quality, so we have to do this. So how do we think from the different dimensions of a test coverage? And this session is specifically covering on app side, not the backend, but most of the non-functional areas is applicable for the backend as well. We can actually slightly tweak and then check on the backend side as well. Yeah, so the first slide is before we start any testing, this is our bread and butter. Like in today's world, QA, SDET, or anyone, we are not just doing a QA job, right? We are not just doing the quality checks. We are a little above or more than that, which are like more operational work, spinning up an environment, doing a data setup, and feature level data setup and a regression level data setup, and the right flavor to be introduced. Like one is specifically for us to debug if there is an issue comes, and it's not just the functionality check, also how we are rolling it out to the consumer. It probably few things can be immediately roll out, and a very business product, very scaled business products, or we cannot roll out that easily to 100%. So we'll have to be slowly roll out. If there is issue comes, we have to be have a backup plan to be feature flags to be disabled, all this rollout strategy to be planned. So everything we have to be tested before even we jump into this sign of the feature, right? So these are all our arena. So these are all the equipment to be checked before even we, this are basically a prerequisite to be checked before we are giving any sign off, or even some of these things are we are picking it up before even our QA drop to be picked up by the QA, right? So this is all thing. So here I mentioned the environment. Environment is always a challenge for us in many company, at least in my work experience. Swiggy and Vola, both the companies, environment is always a challenging part to maintain, right? Like we cannot have a single environment for a UAT or a QA specifically. Even if you have it, there will be a lot of bills will be deployed, and the access will be widespread. Even though you are restricted access just for a QA, but later point for some debugging you will give access to multiple folks, and then after some time you cannot maintain it. So that's the one problem we have solved in Swiggy recently in last 2 years, which we have called out. I didn't mention as a UAT, I mentioned as a ephemeral, because this ephemeral environment is very specific to that feature, and this is getting spinned up just by the QA or even a dev, anyone, just by a couple of commands. The entire data will also be attached with the new services to be spin up, and then we will close our testing. And once after the end-to-end done, this is moving to the pre-prod, and pre-prod probably a few of the checklists we need to run, and prod we have to do few of the checklists. So this is how the environment we are maintaining it at Swiggy. So that's the ephemeral environment when we are making ephemeral, which is like very specific to that feature, so that it won't interact with other features and we don't get that issues of other features impacting us, right? And the right flavors has to be selected. uh, any app you are releasing it to the production, like that will have a release version, so that you cannot peel it out, or you cannot further decompile your APK or iOS app like IPA files, and check what is there sitting inside, right? So there will be a different variations of flavors we are using it. One for a debugging purpose. This is a most useful flavor for the entire QA community, because we will have to deep dive every anomalies you're finding it out in the system. This is the flavor we will use it, and then check why this is coming, what it is, all these things, right? So this is a flavor we were usually use it before we are giving the final versions. And the guardrails everyone must know already, like the feature flags testing, XP testing. And people who don't know dog fooding, like basically it's like alpha testing, beta testing. You can actually roll out your apps to a specific set of or selection set of users, so that people will give a early feedback before it hits app store or a play store. So another rollout strategy is in specifically app testing. You have to keep this rollout strategy. You cannot roll out an app right after App Store approved, or Play Store approved. You cannot roll out the entire app to 100% the next day, right? So if you do that way, then if any issue comes, the entire user base will get crash or whatever, right? So this will create a trust issues on that. So there will be a rollout strategy also we have to follow. All these things at the time of testing, you and me have to actually decide it. It's not just a work of a GTM plan of product or something, right? This is a part of a QA plan as well. And the right framework and tools. Yes, so manually if you're doing testing, then there is no much to do, but even there manually you'll have to use the right tools like a Charles uh, for a proxy layer. And there will be a lot of other tools like a Postman for API, a lot of other tools to be used. But for automation you have to use the right frameworks, like it can be any language, but the right framework you have to be picked up. So this is all the prerequisites to be start our test coverage, or the basic testing also. But when you deep dive as in coverage mostly everyone knows as in functional and non-functional. There is a two bigger bucket we have it. So functional, how Swiggy is handling, what are the things we are covering it, and what is it? But like couple of things I have mentioned it here. But non-functional we can have it in detail. So functional coverage, in the feature coverage wise, almost everyone knows this is our bread and butter. We have to do this. This is a basic positive negative test case, all the edge cases, all these things we are covering it. Without test cases and test suits, there is nothing going into the production. So this is our bread and butter, everyone knows pretty much. Backward compatibility testing is also a part of functional, because the previous versions versus current versions, how it is behaving between UI versus web, app versus web, and web versus the previous React Native or something, right? Like these are all like the packages, the backward compatibility testing we have to be tested. This is all a functional coverage, and device and OS coverage. Pretty much everyone who is part of apps testing should know this. So currently, the problems we are facing at the device and OS coverage, if you recently, if I take some examples, so iOS is getting released with the beta versions. So we are actually putting into the beta versions before the actual users are getting into it, right? So then we are identifying all the issues upfront, and then we are fixing it, both developer beta as well as public beta, and then we are fixing it. This is at the forward path. And the backward path also, if you take it out, the Android 6, Android 7, it is almost a deprecated state, but still users are there. We have to support them. So at that side also, we have to be manage their feature requests, or manage their, like, assume there is some new feature, you are building it up, testing it up, you should also make sure they are also able to enjoy that benefit. So that is also you have to be covered, right from the base OS version to the latest OS version. Everything you have to be covered. So this is at the device at OS level. So in Swiggy, the major device family, and then the coverage, this is one of the automation coverage which we are doing it, how many tests we ran, how many unique tests we ran, and what is the total coverage in last 1 month. So this is the report I'm just flashing it here. Let's move on to the non-functional. Yeah, so non-functional, pretty much all these things are known by many of the folks, but I just give a one-liner for each segment. Alone way testing is just, basically an accessibility testing, which will actually give a option to use or a benefit of the app to the user of physically challenged, or there are disabilities folks who wanted to use our benefits, right? Like those testing we can call as an accessibility testing. Security testing, like we have to do this in case if you are missing the security dimensions, right? Like anytime there'll be a lot of attacks happens, even at the Swiggy. In my last 6 years career, we have seen like 2 to 3 bigger attempts happens, and we have actually mitigated immediately with all the other AWS tools and other stuff. But still, this is something we have to be taken care very closely. Otherwise, the entire system can go out for a day or something. So pretty much there are a lot of good examples in the recent times. You could have seen it with the security attacks, right? Performance testing, this is needed, much needed for a Swiggy kind of a high scaled product, like because the minute you are releasing it, so it's like 1 million customers are actually seeing this the performance, and the user experience is purely based on the performance of your app. It is actually performance, it's a combination of both, right? Both the backend as well as the app frames per second, everything is combined. But as a user experience, performance actually plays a major role. And this is actually a competitive marketing pull, right? Like if you're not performing well, even if you have a good features, of course your competitor wins the game. So you have to be a very fine tune in your performance every now and then. Performances actually carry forward your app size and memory leaks and everything, right? So this is not just a quick response and request, right? It is also uh, the app size. If you're increasing an app size, people won't do it, people won't install on their phone. So it is all combination of everything, right? Pixel testing, I think most of the folks, at least to my knowledge, this is new to me. This is a kind of a snapshot comparison testing between A and B, and then throwing it out the actual delta part. So this pixel testing, which is very much useful if you are not able to find a bug which is not a common bug, right? Like if it is a functional bug, you can easily find it out. But pretty much it looks like a sin, but you are not able to find that. Like assume let's change the font, and the font you may not be able to understand actually it is changed or not. So those kind of things are coming under this pixel testing. Events testing is one of the key feature. We have to increase in our, in case if you're not adapted already in our test frameworks, this has to be there. Why? Because events actually plays a role of making decision in the future, right? Even if you build any product, how the product is performing, what is the user is actually liking it in your product, what they don't like it, all this information we are getting from the events, right? So without these events data there, we cannot do a data analysis. Without doing data analysis, we cannot take any decisions towards the user, uh, uh, user experience level, right? They don't like it otherwise. So we have to be keep on catching the user, what they are liking. We have to read the user minds, like what they are liking, what they don't like. So what do we need to cut off, where we need to spend, what is the return of investment. So all these metrics has to be decided by the events. So we have to put more energy there to invest on the events testing. Initially in Swiggy, we didn't put much effort in the initial time. At least when I joined this team, I was seeing like there was no much events level testing. We were doing it by manually, but that was there is no much return of investment. That was so long, and it's time taking process. So we will come to that part later, like we have it on the slide specifically for the events. So, and the memory leaks testing, mocks testing. So these are all the other dimensions we need to think of, and keep it in our testing frameworks, so that memory leaks, which will eventually leads at the application not responding, basically ANRs and crashes at the end. And then mock testing is, this is one of the beautiful feature, with beautiful dimensions. You have to keep it. Why? Because most of the times, as a QA, we will. I'm not sure. At least in my experience, almost once in a month I'll have to hit. I am hitting that bandwidth crunch issues. Like bandwidth crunch is always an issue, because of the market moving fast and a lot of Hadoop requests, all these things. So when we are going via the waterfall model, like, hey, you do that API, build it, and then I will test it. So all these things won't work in the fast phasing product. So we have to do with mock testing. Probably we will be ready with our testing things and all ready. Yeah, this is app side, things are ready, we are tested now. Right after the integration happens, we'll close the sign off in very quickly manner. So mock testing is such a beautiful thing. We have shipped a lot of features just by mock testing, as a gives a reduce a lot of turnaround time from the QA, and then we integrated and does the final sign off, right? Let's start with this image comparison testing, which is in this slide, which is pixel testing. So if you see this, right, like both looks same, like it's like pretty much the old newspaper, find out the five spots differences and all, right? So pretty much the same thing. This in the, at least this you can able to find it in few of the things, but not all in the very quicker manner. What actually we are doing is a pixel by pixel comparison, right from the entire screen, right? What it actually gives to us is like, we have done, if you see this return of investment, right? There are a branding update, like a font changes. We actually recently changed. If you're a regular user for the Swiggy, you might have noticed we have changed the font from A to B. Why? Because there were some contract changes, and we need to change it to the uniform to the entire fonts into the single job font family. We have changed it, but it is very hard to test those kind of things. It's really really hard. Why? Because you don't know, you cannot read the entire fonts in the overall app, right? This app is actually having a lot of pages. You cannot go each and every page and then check all the fonts are changed or not. So it's in this case, actually, while we're building, we are just building for just a home page, food page and all. But when this case hits, actually we were got the actual return of investment. Okay, this is the needed tool, the must tool is needed for this. Otherwise, this font changes might have not gone it that easy. So we have done almost all the pages. Simple, it can be done. We have done actually both manual and automation. The first slot we have gone with manual, like take a screenshot and compare, show the output. So it was keep on showing all the pages we have taken once, and then we started automating things. And then now, from every now and then, like if any pages goes, we'll do this via automation, and then it will actually throw all the data. Even by mistake, if a developer or a designer, if they're changing up one pixel for a new change, right? So that is also will be get caught by this tool, which is very useful for the Swiggy's use case. At least I hope this is needed for much other use cases for the different teams also. And the other one is a quicker turnaround time for PP, right? When so this is the pixel perfection as a part of the phase, other release phase, right? Like when we are doing a development is done. Now pixel perfection has to be done, then QA has to be start, and then the sign off is happening, and then it goes to production, right? These are all the phases of product release. So the pixel perfection is usually designers actually have to spend a lot of time. Say, this is what I've recommended, and the same as developer has built or not. They are doing it like for their own Figma versus the actual app. They are really difficult to find the differences. Even they miss sometimes, right? Right after this tool comes into the picture, we were actually recommended this tool to use it. Then they've just compared it. Nowadays they are easily comparing it with the Figma and then the actual app, and then they're signing off. This turnaround time is actually reduced like a lot. So this is useful for a designer side aspect also. Like how we build this is basically a resemble JS we have used, and then with that there are options to be check the pixel by pixel. That's the thing, right? So before we start, what are the tools we explored as in POC part, right? So these many tools we explored, and these are all the supports were there, and it's actually having both paid tool as well as open source, and there are different features is supported, non supported, all these things. So we initially try to negotiate with one of these two tools, and then we realized it is pretty straightforward. We can also implement. So we were actually trying to implement this, and then after some time we really got the massive return of investment. And then from there we have started using it. Like last 1.5 year we are continuously using this in every release. So this is my recommendation or suggestions. Please make sure your app is also getting tested by pixel, so you don't miss anything. Like this is increasing one dimensions of the coverage, right? And the same slide, if you see it on the right side, I just put it as a question here. Like, do you guys are able to find any differences between the first image and the second image? I can see. Yeah. Okay. I'll just move it to my next slide because this is just one pixel moved, and this is the difference. Like one pixel moved, and everything is actually moved. But by naked eyes, you cannot even find out uh, what is actually changed. But there is an actual change for the entire page is actually moved except the username, which is a Swiggy tea. Except that everything has actually changed. But we are not able to find this, right? Only this tool is able to find it. So these are all the things which you are not able to find by the naked eyes. This tool is really helpful for it. Before I go to the events,
I have one question with respect to the pixel testing. I'm just presenting the question on stage. So the question is, how has our test pyramid evolved that elevates our testing approach? APN does the image comparison, and now other tools do the same. But tackling the growing need of contract testing, integration, image comparison, so on, makes it challenging. So basically, I think our wants to know that how to tackle the growing need of these testing. I think you were talking about the bandwidth thing in the very beginning. So I think he wants to know how to resolve these challenges as a testing team.
yeah, so there is no direct answer for this because we have to go through this. There is no other option. It is all. It is at least to my case how we are handling in these diamonds to be added up or regression or anything. Is the simple formula we are using is a return of investment. Earlier, we were not doing this image comparison earlier because we don't actually need it for the use case. There is no real use case to be placed there. Now when actually we have checked like this, the entire image comparison tool for us to build, it takes a week only. So from there we've actually, so that's the input we have put right now. That's the input as in 1 week we have put into the system. Now this gives as a return of investment when we are doing a branding change as well as the font changes. This a month effort is reduced to a week now. So we already achieved, we have already got our benefits out. So this is how we have to calculate. If you don't have a use case, and I even say don't even pick. If some other team is doing it, don't pick it up. Maybe for a experience purpose or a POC side, you can just get to know things, keep it ready, but don't really invest more time there. But there should be a return of investment always has to be attached with your any tool you are developing it or using it. I hope this answers you, James. Okay.
You can go on,
Yeah.
Vijay.
Cool. Moving to the next slides, events testing. Yeah. So I've already told you, right? Like events testing is a baseline for a company to take a decision. Who's our customer? What they need, and how do we improve our system, right? So this is all. If you're missing reading this feedback, then we may not be end up actually reaching the right path. So this is a very, very important thing to be do it. Like how we started, as in Swiggy wise, how we started is we actually were doing it manually in the events testing, which is very, very time taking process. If you're saying like 300, 400 events is there, plus we have a revenue based events. Events itself, we are actually having two different dimensions. One is a revenue based events, like in ads and all. Like if you're showing that ads, and as a customer, if sees that, or someone the customer actually clicks that, you will get some money, right? So this is a revenue, direct revenue. So we cannot take a risk on the revenue based events, right? So we initially started our events testing automation just to solve our revenue purpose, and then we realized, why don't we increase our adapting all the same level to all the other non revenue based events also. So initially there were 60 to 80 events were there at the ads list. So we just started. But the problem here is, if you see it before we start, actually these are all the problems. It was keep on changing. That the source of truth is a major challenge while you're doing events automation, right? What happens is when there was so how usually events, I don't know, but multiple companies, like how at least Swiggy were initially between the analytics team and then the developer team and the QA team, between these triangle combo, how they were actually sharing the events is they will share it in some Excel sheet, and then a developer will do it. While developer is developing it, analytics team will realize they wanted to change something, they'll do changing something, and QA will validate it. So there will be a lot of versions are getting maintained between these three, and if anything they have changed, probably developer might aware and QA might not aware. So this handshaking was not really great. So this was always a problem. There is no single source of truth, and that's why we are not able to even increase our coverage, right? That we are not able to even do it everything. So whenever there was a specific requirement comes, and then people will say, hey, I'm touching this page and these are all events are impacted, do only that. So we cannot do all 300 plus events. So only that 15, 20 events we will test it and then signing it off. So this was a practice we were having it earlier, and later point of time we realized, so this is, we have to kill this a multiple source, right? So this is one problem we were facing it. And yeah, basically that's the second problem is pretty much same, right? That the change history is actually introducing, that's the dependent problems. Both are dependent problems. Manual verification, as I said, like we are doing impact based testing, not the entire set. So you have you have a 400 plus events to be verified, but you cannot do the previous questions asked, right? You cannot do all 400 because you don't have time. If you start doing it, you have to invest more time there, but it is not a good return of investment. So what we have done is, like, we will do only the verification on the impact area, but sometimes, right, even that is having a downside. Like if a developer, one of the issue actually we have faced in the real time is, one of the developer doesn't even realize there was a bigger impact area. He actually communicated in the system saying like, hey, this is what we attached. It's very simple thing. This was the last leg of the event, so you can just verify these 2 3 events. So folks are actually signed off, and then when we are seeing the actual events, the events were dropped. When we realize he has actually touched the core framework, when there was a food and IM, he has actually changed it. So that entire IM data were got corrupted because of this one simple change. So the impact area also is not a full proof or full truth we can believe it, right? So that is another reason we cannot go with impact area testing. And another one is the limited coverage and multi-platform support. Yeah, multi-platform support is much needed, because even if you are ready to dive in and then doing all 300 400 test case, You have to do the same thing for again for iOS or a different OS version, right? So that is again increasing your 2x 3x of your efforts. So this was the problem statement we were facing it, and then we have actually built it again. This also an inbuilt tool. So how we built it is basically as a simple a proxy way, right? Like I'm sure pretty much people who are at the apps testing, definitely they'll use at least one proxy layer. Probably in our case we are using a Charles proxy. So what we are doing it, all the requests which goes via Charles, we are redirecting to the request to our in-house tool. What this in-house tool is actually doing, which we are calling as AI automated tool. What this tool is actually doing is we are creating an event in a contract way. So this contract is actually getting shared by both dev, QA as well as analytics, right? All three of us will actually have to stick the contract. If they wanted to change, there is a git versions is actually going to maintain. So only the latest version, the latest code only will be there. So this actually kills this line number A and B, right? Those two problems are actually getting solved by this versions. Plus we are keep on adding the regex and then the path matching. So anything which is a static value you are passing in your events, it will be direct match. You can use a direct string match. Anything which is like a dynamic value like an order ID or something, you will have to actually you can do it with a regex match, or anything which is there at the like a address or something you wanted to mention as a JSON wise, you can still do that with a JSON comparison. So we actually do a four different variations of validations within this tool. So now how this tool is basically working is, you no need to do anything as in code wise. We can just test our regular flow in an app. While you are doing it, all the requests goes via our tool, and this tool is actually comparing against your regex which you have already created as a contract. So it will actually throw a pop-up saying, hey, these many events comes to me, and out of 100 90 is failed. And this is applicable for both Android and iOS. Maybe I can show to the next screen. So this is how my tool will look like, and this is the second screen. I need to upload my contracts, and then the regex patterns, like these are all the events I supposed to verify, and these are all the regex I'm going to give it. This is a one-time activity for each event, but post that this is how it will look like when you are playing in your app. This is a this is a screen on live. Like whenever you are doing it, then immediately you'll keep on seeing a 40 out of 44 events, 40 events are already matched and verified, right? In this 44 events, only there is no event comes in the iOS. So this is how it will look like. So you have to make that event to be triggered. That is something our job to do it at the manually. You can do the same thing, like whatever you're doing it manually, you can actually simulate the same via APM, and then do the same thing again with the end-to-end automation. But in my opinion, it is work for us like half the way. Like the first 5 minutes, if you're playing at an app which actually creates all the events, this is just a 5 minutes job. If I do automation of the same thing, I need to spin up all 44 threads, then only it will come into the 5 minutes stuff. And even there, we don't know the stability of that. So it's better to keep it in manual of the event triggering part, but validation part is an automation.
So, Vijay, just because we have 10-15 minutes left for the session, so I have some questions. So, I would like to present the question on the stage.
Yep.
So, this is how to reduce the manual verification. So, basically, you mentioned in the last slide that there are some manual verification steps. So, I believe at Swiggy you have like reduced the step the by using this in-house automator tool.
Right. Right.
So I think that is the question. So are there like any other tools to reduce this step, or like because you might have researched a lot on this part?
Is this specific to the question is specific to events, like because
Yes, it
uh,
was specific to events.
okay, so here in this case, it is already reduced the manual verification. We are not doing any manual verification here. So the verification is fully done by this tool. So it's all one-time activity. We have to do it because we have to set the expected condition, right? What is need to be verified. So that expected condition, whichever automation you do it, you have to assert that. So that's the one-time effort we are putting it here. So rest of the things, it's all doing it by the tool only. So it is actually receiving it via the charts, and then it is doing that validation.
So I have one more question here. So how do you define comprehensive test coverage in the context of modern applications, and what strategies are essential to achieve it?
Strategies or this is more generic. I'm not sure I can cover it well here, but let me give my the way which we are doing it, right? Like, so how the product is evolved and what is it required, that actually demands the strategies to be covered, right? Like, what are the uh, basically, right, when we are in a startup, when it's just a 1 year startup, and then you immediately jump into the, and you don't even get a, million requests per day, and you're immediately jumping in to the performance benchmarking testing, which is not really needed. So actually, our product itself demands what needs to be improved from our end. So we can actually just follow the pulse of our product, pulse of our teams, like what they actually wanted to achieve, right? Otherwise we will jump in, like, in today's world, AI is a fancy term and everyone wanted to jump in. And if you are trying to do it everything by AI right after you build a product, probably you may not be able to achieve it. If you achieve it also, you may not be able to get the good return of investment. That's the point. So you have to plan it well with your along with your product. If you cannot be sidelined, so that is something, the strategy. Like, actually, you don't need to be have a special strategy to solve everything in a one stop solution. You can actually just follow your pulse of your team.
I
And
think it is more of it depends on the product team and the product you are working on, and what are the priorities of the product. So
exactly.
maybe in that way you can prioritize what are the important features, and then you can maybe plan these things. Okay, so I have some more questions, but because we are running short of time, so we can maybe take towards the end if there's time left.
Yeah, I'll also will fast track it. I have to cover a couple of more slides.
Okay.
So return of investment here is like, it's pretty much straightforward. We found a lot of bugs, and then it reduced 5x speed with 100% accuracy. Yeah, accuracy is a actual a spike here, because when you're doing manual event testing, you cannot do this 100% accuracy. So 5x speed with 100% accuracy is like a mind-blowing return of investment. So we are stick with this now. So every change we are making it now is going via this events testing. Security testing, pretty much this is essential. And why, because I'm just going little fast to catch up in just 7 to 8 minutes for all the other slides. If you guys wanted to stop me somewhere, just state. So security testing, it is much needed because of the reasons which is I have highlighted in the slides. We have used in the past burp suit, mob sf, sonar cube. This is all actually doing, few of the tools are actually doing uh, uh, a static code analyzer, and a few of the things are actually doing at the compile time level also. But we were actually chose a MobileSF for apps security testing. So pretty much it's a pretty straightforward, simple steps. So if you're not doing it, any security testing in your app, please start doing it. This is super helpful, and you will understand a lot of new issues which you will never even think of it. So if you go it in just a Google it on the mobile of repo, you will get the repo. There are in ren.sh, which will actually eventually the above Python commands were there, right? That's the command which is internally is getting executed. It will spin up a local server in your local box, and then from there you can actually create or add your APK file, which is whichever flavor you want. Like in our case, we used to do it with release debuggable. And then once you trigger that, it actually analyze the entire APK's code. It will actually decompile everything, and then go each class wise, and then all the directories wise. And then it will say, hey, you have used some sensitive information on your this particular file and this particular directory. And then there are a lot of like attacking space you are giving it to the users. These entire reports with the severity and the score it will give. So I have attached the report here. I've just masked the numbers, but just that this will give this is your total score for your entire app. It will give your score and then the range, all these things. So uh, so how this look like, basically right after you spin up your local host, right? The third step, this will look like this UI, and then you can just upload your app, whichever app you want. Yeah, so this is how, and then finally it will give the previous report which I've showed you, right? This is the report you will get it with the detail. What are the security issues you are facing it and all. So another dimension which is very much needed to increase your crash free rate, right? So this is a stress testing because people if it is a functional testing, you will anyway cover it, all these things, but you cannot do uh, you cannot predict a user's behavior. You cannot predict the unexpected scroll, right? Like people will usually go click 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 and then scroll back, all these things. This is all the usual pattern. Like there is an interruption can comes, like you can put it in the background and keep it in the foreground, and you can put it as a smaller screen and all. So all these things you may not be able to cover it, but if you do that stress testing, this actually ensures the recycler view, how much time you are creating it in your app. So is it actually happening at the right way? The app is actually using the right patterns of basically we recently faced one of the issue where they are using a singleton and the builder pattern. They together, as this is all together, it actually overrides each other. So when there is an API, it's supposed to go via a DNS, but it is actually overridden with the other instance of the singleton. So with these issues, we can identify by the stress testing. You cannot, because all these are race conditions. You cannot create a race condition all by yourself, which is very hard. So this stress testing actually is somehow which we are not able to reprove, which will this will able to reprove it. So in our case, we are using a monkey test with ADB commands, and we are restricting few of the data to be killed. Rest of the things we will allow. And then SwiftMonkey, we are this is iOS side, we are not much explored. SwiftMonkey, we are still in progress, but Android side we are always doing this as a process wise, which is increasing our crash rate. Is never it goes down beyond 99%, right? Like it is always up. So this is our way to increase our ANR and crash free rate. So this is how it will look like. It does basically more than 1,000 clicks and all within the time frame which we are mentioning. So I'm just moving to the next slide. Yeah, performance testing we initially tried with by actually put a proxy layer, like how we have done for Charles, right? We put a proxy layer, MITM proxy, we put it in the one of the cloud provider, and we read them, and then we benchmark by ourselves. We actually feed those data into the DB, and then we extracted it and benchmark it. But what we have actually we got is as a failure. That number and the actual production number not even nearby. It was completely a different data, and we realized it's not just the framework. It is also impacting, like, because the people who are from the box which we are triggering and the cloud provider which are giving all the networks hops also involved here, so we are not able to actually achieve the right performance testing there. So this is one of the failure we have achieved, and then post that we are actually started adding all this logs and the important events in the Neuralink way for all the dog fooding apps, which is actually create gives an idea like what is a cold start, hard start, like how much time it is taking at each page level. And in Android currently, apart from this Neuralink data, before that only at the QA phase, we are actually calculating this frames per second at a page level, which is a small set of code sitting into our repo only, and this will actually evaluate the internal methods of scrolling, and then basically scrolling will actually say the FPS, right? Scrolling of each pages multiple times, and then it will say, hey, this is the FPS for you. And with the different network conditions, different device conditions, we are actually collating the data and finally publishing it. Yeah, there is no much delta, and then we can go ahead. This is the way we are signing it off. iOS, the GD performance GD performance tool we are using as a geek stack. If you see it on the top, manually you can extract the data. Automation wise, iOS we have not achieved much on the performance side. So yeah, I think this is a last couple of questions, last slide. So accessibility testing, as I already told, like this is we are trying to majorly doing this for inclusivity of the folks who are physically challenged, and then this is much needed for a legal compliance also. So this is a two major reasons we supposed to do this. And how we are doing this is basically we cannot simulate actual voiceover and then test. And even if you do it, that you cannot scale that, because you have to actually go with some clouds and then do that. So what is the best way we are actually following is like, so the actual plugin is reading the content which is from the content description only. So what we are setting it, we are directly jumping into that content description. Is it actually having the right value? If you don't know the value, you can put it the regex. So we are actually doing this now. If you see it, after doing this, we can started seeing this roughly approximately 5K orders per day for both food and IM. So this is one of the accessibility side. And mark testing, so we have earlier, again here also it's like a trial and error method. We have tried some of the mock servers, and then we were not able to go forward because of actual mocking were keep on changing, mocking response were keep on changing. We were not able to maintain. Now the latest one which we are using as a mock server as a Node.js, it's all internally created. And the benefits of this mock server is, we have a two modes, mock and live. What actually the live mode does is, it instead of it connects to the live traffic, live data. Also it actually saves those data for a mock. So next time you don't need to actually manually go and mock anything. You can use that previous live data as a mock data for the next iterations. So that was a really beautiful and helpful feature for mock testing. So now this actually eradicates the problem of maintenance, and then it supports the dynamic mocks also. So now we are able to achieve the entire mocks layer, which is not even now depends on backend data to be deployed, backend systems to be deployed. We don't need to have that uh, problem statement now. Like we'll sign off everything, and then once the backend is ready, we will do the end to end. Yeah, I'm pretty much done, guys.
Yeah. So thank you, Vijay. So I think we
Any?
are still in time. So there are some more questions. So I would request the audience to post the question on the community. The link for the community question tab is there. It is pinned in the chat section. So we'll try our best to answer all the questions which are there. And thank you so much, Vijay, for the insightful session. I think you have covered some of the there were some top notch practices that are followed in the industries, and you have also talked a lot about the tools that you are actually using, which I think will be pretty much handy for any of the engineer out there looking out to do the similar kind of activity. So yeah, you have also shown them the direction of like how they can achieve that particular thing. So thank you so much for this insightful session, Vijay. And the recordings for the session will be available in the YouTube channel. So stay tuned if you want to again see the recording and you want to like check out all the tools which are shared by Vijay. And thank you so much for joining in again.
Thanks everyone. Thanks everyone time.